Hello, welcome to the Bluff Creek Project podcast. I'm Tate Hieronymus. And you know what? It's been a long time since I've had Kipp Morrill joining me in the helm. Or how would you say that, Kipp? Help me out.
On the bridge, the helm, the cockpit, if you will, of the of the flagship Bluff Creek Project.
It's been a while since we hosted a episode together. What better guest to host than having Robert Leiterman on again?
Ranger Robert Leiterman. I think people are oftentimes it'll be like, who's Robert Leiterman? And I'll say Ranger Robert Leiterman. And they go, oh, okay, Ranger Robert Leiterman. They get that. So
you gotta identify him by Ranger Robert Leiterman.
RRL.
RRL. But anyway, well, how are you doing, Kipp? It's been a while. We gotta know how you're up, what you're up to, man.
I've been great. It's been an interesting time. I'm trying to think of the last time. I think it was probably I was still living in California, and since then I've moved to the beautiful state of Washington. Took a new position within the same organization, but a different job. And because of COVID, my office is actually in downtown Portland. I've worked not a day in the whole time that I've been there since the middle of July. So with that, I'm working virtually, and since I'm living full time in an RV, I travel about. So I'm down in the desert of Southern California and have been for the last couple of months. Robert's got his mask on. That's good. But yeah, so taking advantage of the opportunity. I just need a self-service or Wi-Fi, and looking at the potential for retiring at the end of December of this year. So then I'll have a lot of time to dedicate to the fun things that I like to do, like going camping and looking for an otherwise yet to be identified North American bipedal primate.
That's going to be the day. It's funny. As long as I've known you, I've heard always like, I'm going to retire this year. And it's like, man, you're saying that. You're finally going to do it.
This time I mean it. This time.
This time. Well, it's like the winning the Bigfooter of the year. You're doing it every year.
Well, it's like it's like tripping over shoelaces or something. I can't even help it. It's like I look out my doorstep and there's another Bigfooter of the Year trophy, and I'm stumbling over it. Well, all right, I accept. So, yeah, it's tough to be humble. It's not easy to try and be, when you're good or you're great, trying to act like you're not. It's not easy. You wouldn't know, but take my word for it.
Oh my goodness.
Tripping over Robert's shoelaces there. So
yeah, it looks like our guest is getting antsy. He's like making all kinds of funny faces. So without further ado, let's welcome Ranger Robert Leiterman.
Thank you.
How you guys
doing? I'm doing fine. Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of a remodel of the kitchen, and that's been like a 4-week process. Make it a month, where you have to put plywood on top of your new cabinets you installed, but you can't. You have no room to do anything, to find anything, because all your tools are spread everywhere. And strip it all down to nothing, fix the floor because we had a bad leak, chase out the rats, they had to move out, and then rebuild everything back up. Spend a lot of money on cabinets, try to get those low. Yeah, right. The floor is like this, and the cabinets got to be level. Anyhow, and then I got them all in, and then we got the tops ordered, and then I was chipping away at the floor to the bathroom. I know this is too much information for you, but you asked how I was doing. So anyhow, I'll be putting that flooring in tomorrow. So yeah, hope that answered.
So I've known Robert for about 9 years now. Actually, so I think we met in 2012.
Yeah, it was 2012. Yeah.
And so for the entire time that I've known Robert, he's been working on his house. Yep. When he says, I've been remodeling the kitchen, and I'm like, for the 4th time.
Well,
That,
I can confirm this because I've known Robert for, I think, since 2017, and a good part from 2018 onward. I've known him to be remodeling as well because I've always seen the pictures. So this is true.
well, when you buy an affordable house 20 years ago, and then you don't really put a lot of time into the interior, you spend all the time landscaping your exterior and funding your kids' education. And eventually you said, it's time to get that kitchen fixed because my wife was ready to dump me somewhere. I go, well, I guess we should get that fixed. So that's a big investment. But yeah, I've been working on something. I don't have much. I got pictures I can send you, but I know we're kind of busy right now of the big pond out back.
I saw it
years ago. It's like a regular forest. It's like watching Rowdy's pictures when he's out in the woods and everything. He sends all these pictures. Well, I just go to my yard and send those pictures. What the heck?
So when Man vs. Wild comes to California, are you going to offer them your backyard to film?
No, it's not big enough. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh man,
pretty small.
Oh well, I mean they can make it work. TV magic, right?
Yeah, 2.7 acres isn't real big.
I've got something that's been kind of I found it's interesting. If I can bring it up tonight with everybody.
I don't know.
So
it is.
So I found myself, in my travels, I travel quite a bit, not only for work, but also for pleasure. And I find myself, meeting different people, and I am always, I figure that if I don't tell people what my hobby is or what my beliefs are when it comes to the subject we're discussing tonight, I find that you don't get information, and it's pretty amazing the kind of information that you can glean from some of these interact or contacts with people. So my question is, how do you talk to people about your interest in the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomena? I know for me, I usually say this is my conversation starter. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm a firefighter. Blah 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 blah. And so, and I'll say, by the way, I've got this hobby, and immediately my wife rolls her eyes, and I look at her. She goes, "Well, tell him." I go, "Well, so I got this hobby. I'm an avid Bigfoot Sasquatch enthusiast," and they'll say either, "Wow, that's very interesting," or "You're crazy," or "I totally believe that, and this is why." And so it's usually one of those three. And so I don't know. I've always kind of wonder, how do people? It seems like there's more people out there that kind of have an interest in it that you don't know anything about. But I think there's a lot of fear that people have about being ridiculed or being pointed at as, And then if people tell me, they go, "Oh, that's totally crazy," I go, "Pfft." I said, "We're not crazy." I said, "The leprechaun people are crazy." So.
Well, I know you're going to find this hard to believe, but I usually don't bring it up in conversations. I usually keep that, put away somewhere else. So I don't know how to respond to that. Well, I guess the last time I brought it up is because one of my fellow instructors volunteered that information about my special interest. Yeah, but usually I don't bring those things up. And occasionally I get the students who kind of Google my name. And then in private, they kind of bring it up. And I say, "Are you sure you got the right guy?" There's just a few other Robert Leitermans running around. So, yeah, but no, Kipp, I don't really deal with that very often. I guess I don't go out of my way to tell people those kind of things. Yeah, I guess maybe around a campfire. Usually I'm hanging with people like you guys.
I feel bad for that. You got to hang out with us. You got to hang out with us, and I feel bad for that. I feel bad for you.
Well, somebody's got to do it. Nobody else wants to hang out with you guys. Someone's got to, take one for the team, and show up, pretend like we're having a good time, and eat your food, and drink your favorite beverages, and then bring a shovel along, to clean up other things that end up on gravel roadways and stuff that are like under people's feet and everything. But outside of that, it's yeah. So Kipp, I don't know if I answered your question appropriately or really answered your question the way you wanted me to answer your question. But no, it doesn't happen very often. It's something that I just don't bring up a lot to imagine somebody being in a public position, much like yours. And that's the last thing you kind of want to bring up when you're trying to, get this professional image. Oh, well, by the way, I just want to let you know that I'm kind of crazy and I go out and see crazy things and I do crazy things. And how about you? No, it usually doesn't pop up in that.
Yeah. I mean, I typically tell people, everybody's got to have a hobby. And I tell them that, that this is a hobby of mine. But the reason it's a hobby, it's because I like to camp. I like to hike. I like to observe wildlife, and I like to hang out with people that I enjoy the company of. And it's, and by the way, if we have some sort of something interesting happen, if there's a sighting or, we hear something strange or we find a footprint or a track or something, that's just bonus stuff. That would be great, but that's not why I go out and do it. I do it because it's fun. I enjoy the mystery. Yeah. But I do find that by kind of opening myself up a little bit, it tends to yield some pretty positive results. Not always, but mostly.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. I know you travel around a lot because I see all your pictures you send up Facebook and all. But yeah, you get to see a lot of people all over the place. You probably have friends like in every state, times 10. Or maybe more than that, because I know you're real busy and you get around. And when I first met you, it was in 2012. I mean, you're the guy that was Bart says, "Hey, Robert, I need you to help you investigate this thermal sighting I had, and I'm bringing this guy named Kipp. He's okay guy. You'll like him, and he's going to be there. He's going to help you with your investigation." I go, okay. So it's kind of cool because I forget the name of the town we stopped at. We all rendezvoused with our vehicles there.
Bassett's.
Bassett's. Yeah, we pulled up in Bassett's, and the first thing Bart does, "Hey, come here, let me introduce you to Kipp." And then Kipp and I hit it off really well at the very beginning. And that was kind of a special trip because Kipp and I got a chance to work together. Kipp had no idea who I was or just hearsay that Bart was sharing with him. And I just got hearsay of what Bart said that Kipp was. But we hit it off really well and it worked well together. But Kipp was instrumental in helping me do the research, the major research we did for Bart's thermal over there in the Sierras. And I got to hand this to Kipp too. Even though Kipp was like 6'3", it was helpful, having him stand in between gaps and trees, pretending like he's a Sasquatch. That was helpful. Or, getting his stride, let him walking around and Kipp always made sure we were fed, and he was an easy partner to work with because he laughed at all my jokes. That was good.
That's right.
And he also was very helpful. Is this what do you want done? What do you need me to do? And it was cool. But I have to say this: on top of all that investigation that we did, which was great, it was like 5 days. Is I had a health issue that day, that weekend trip. And it was Kipp that drove me down to the medical place, in Truckee, just to make sure things were good. And I never forget that because one thing Bart also said that Kipp was like the Boy Scout, and he was that day. He was my little Boy Scout, escorting the senior over to the little facility to make sure.
Sounds so weird.
So Rob is without a doubt, one of my best friends and somebody he's a mentor and somebody I look up to and I really enjoy the company of. But I do want to warn people that if you're out camping and enjoying your time, bigfooting, and you're with Robert, and so Robert will say like small key phrases that I think you need to have kind of at least etched into your memory and make sure that you're aware of. And that would be, it's not very far, or it's just right up here, or
yeah.
No. So what that means is it's just right up here. It means that it's probably somewhere, you should probably pack a lunch, maybe like an early dinner. and just be ready for it to be a very, very, very long day. Or if you're like, are we, the always the question, are we there yet? Are we there yet,
we're there.
Robert? It's just right up here. That means
We're almost there.
we're almost there. So I just want people to be aware that what that means. So
I really appreciate it. Well, let me clarify this a little bit, because there's a little more to this story that Kipp is, he kind of shadowed over a little bit. It was in 2014. I had my retirement party. I retired from state parks 2014, and this is early November, because I retired in October. So we went to a place off the Go Road in an undisclosed location, but it was a pretty cool place. But the gates were shut and locked, so we were all on foot. And in honor of my retirement, Kipp got me this really cool Jetboil, and he loved Jetboil. He always had his Jetboil everywhere he went, and he thought, Robert would really appreciate this Jetboil, and I do appreciate it. But I was also taught there's no sense breaking out things and use them if somebody else has theirs out. So I go, oh, great, a Jetboil. Thank you so much. But what happened is we were just getting ready to go for a hike. And then Rowdy Kelly, who's there, and Rowdy goes, hey, Robert, I got you something too. So Rowdy Kelly whips out this selfie stick. And I mean, I don't know what to say, but we're going on a hike, and I had this GoPro, and he whips out this selfie stick for the GoPro, and I slapped that baby right on it, and it was awesome. So Kipp's going, well, what about my Jetboil? I go, oh yeah, we'll be back. And so we went for a nice hike, and it's during this hike that it's been a while since I've been up to a place called I think Flatiron Lake. It's been a bit, and so we're hiking up the trail, and it was like yesterday, right? Like 10 years ago yesterday, and I was thinking, it's just around the turn here. We're almost there. We got it. And it kept, he's getting a little winded. We all are. He's going to be there. Yeah. I go, oh, it's almost there, just around the bend. So that was 45 minutes ago, right? And then we finally get there to the Flatiron Lake, and he is so thankful we're there. But the meantime, it's just like I kept trying to cattle prod him along, and I guess tell little white lies, and plus I was a little confused too. So, but it doesn't stop there. I guess this is an MO for me. I've done this to a few people accordingly. Anyhow, so yeah, I guess I am guilty of some of that. But let's go back to the Jetboil for a second. I use that thing a lot and all the time, and it's a great piece of tool. But Kipp kept asking me, hey, how's the Jetboil working? I go, well, it's okay. So finally, I had to do a video of me using it. I hope you appreciated that. But yeah, that Jetboil it's a godsend. And anybody hasn't got a Jetboil, all you do is just put your water in it. There's an idiot guide lets you know how much water you put in it. There's even a coating that goes over it that I took off because I didn't want to get damaged, but evidently it stays on and it lets you know if it's warm. See, Kipp didn't tell me these things. Anyhow, so great tool. I loved it. I use it a lot, and I suggest if you guys get a Jetboil, you can take it out. It's lightweight. You can boil water. You can put it with freeze-dried food. You could drink beverages with it. It's a pretty good tool. So 2 thumbs up from Robert for the Jetboil.
Excellent.
And 1 jump off of the selfie stick.
That's right.
And this episode of the Bluff Creek Project podcast is brought to you by Jetboil.
Brought to you by Jetboil. When you're in the woods and you need something hot, it's Jetboil.
When you're in the woods and you need something hot and Kipp isn't there, it's Jetboil.
You need something smoking hot, something that's a little aged, but aged well and is still very hot looking. If I'm not there, then use your Jetboil.
That's right. Well said, friend.
Well said. So. Okay, I want to ask a question because, we're approaching July, and I know that's usually when the annual Bluff Creek camp out is. And we've been doing this podcast, and Robert came up with this cool idea to do in the field episodes. I really want, because I think they're amazing. I thought it was a great idea. Real quickly, I want to hear what Kipp, what did you think of that idea when Robert came up with that for doing it?
I love the idea, and of course I participated in it when he and I and who were we with that time, Robert?
You were with Dustin.
It was Dustin. That's right. So So the three of us were at Kipp Camp, and that was last October. And it's more authentic. I think the idea of, being together, obviously, we're getting so used to this whole virtual environment and whatnot, but, when you're sitting around a campfire and you can kind of hear the crackle, and I just think that it encourages, more, genuine dialogue, I think, and kind of, sparks your thoughts just a little more. So I thought it was a brilliant idea. I hope that we continue that. I think that, coming up with the Bluff Creek Project camp out in July, I think that'll be fantastic to pull somebody off to the side and, have a, 5 or 10 minutes, or just, have the quote unquote round table at the campfire or at Laos or something,
Oh, I told Robert, I was talking to him last night on the phone. I was like, oh, we got to get a roundtable episode with all the guys from the project, because I think that's something that needs to happen. And it's really going to be authentic to be at Laos camp to do it, or anywhere in the Bluff Creek region, in my opinion. But like, Robert, I mean, what kind of gave you that idea? Because I thought that idea was genius. Like, what sparked that idea?
Well, when you go camping, what do? You sit around the fire and you talk. You talk about old times, you talk about other things, and then you pass around stories or alcoholic beverages sometimes, or sometimes there's little green things that are covered with like paper and stuff. You kind of twist the ends. Ask Stephen about that. He'll tell you all about that stuff. But when you're sitting around talking about things, it just makes your energy flow better, and it just puts you in that right position. Like if you were to interview somebody who had an encounter, you call them up on the phone and say, hey, this is Robert Leiterman with the Bluff Creek Project. I heard you got the stuff scared out of you. Hey, you want to tell me all about it? What better idea than to take them there, sit there with them, small talk, and say, hey, do you remember what happened that one time? And when you're there, it lets the juices flow. People are relaxed about it. And I like that. And of course, that's the way it should be done. I don't know, but when you can't drive all over the place and interview people at locations. But I'm glad we did that. It was a challenge when you start talking about, well, let's go up to the film site and we can narrate along the way and take it blocks of time. Kipp and Dustin and Roddy were there for that one. So I did these little blurbs all the way up to the film site, and then you got to go through, re-edit out the stuff you don't want, just so it runs smooth. And then it tell the story as if somebody were to say, hey, if I go there, what would I see? What would I hear? But you also have to describe it, because they can't see it. It's all audible. You have to say, oh yeah, we're crossing this bridge. Oh yeah, there's a big redwood tree off to your left. It's things like that. And it worked pretty well. And the one that I really enjoyed a lot was the one with Kipp and Dustin. We're at Kipp Camp. And we weren't going to spend the night there. We decided, oh heck, let's just do it. So Kipp goes, it's over here somewhere. It's like, Robert, it's just beyond the next tree. So we're driving up this road looking for it. I think this is it. The sun's getting ready to go down. So it's a nice open area that's pretty hard packed, so you won't get stuck there in adverse weather. And we set up there and we said, yeah, I asked Kipp and Dustin, they go, you guys want to try the interview? And they go, yeah, we can do it. But see, Leiterman was going to do an interview at the film site that day, and he started, but his battery ran dead. And so he did a whole 45 minutes of nothing. I apologize for that, Kipp. Anyhow, So that was a warm up. So when we got over to Kipp Camp, I'm getting ready to rock. I take my little digital recorder out, and it won't work because the disc is full. And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? So Kipp comes on and goes, oh, I got one of those. I can fix that for you. So he goes through and deletes, makes more space, blesses it, does a whole bunch of other things. And he goes, here you go, Robert. It's good as new. And that's how we started our interview. And it was kind of fun because it was quiet. We're sitting there and the fire was going. And we're talking, asking questions, and you got the ambiance. And then, of course, Dustin goes, look, fire. Starts throwing more sticks in the fire. What does that do to recording? Pop, 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 pop. So later on, I had to go through it and kind of make those pops quiet. But it was a great idea. All the interviews in the field. I mean, when we did Mike Moraz, it was getting late. Mike's a little nervous when it comes to darkness a little bit. So we're sitting around there, we're interviewing him. It's getting dark, and he keeps looking around, watching how dark it's getting. But that was fun. But he had a lot of information for that. We did rowdies. We hiked up to Scorpion Creek, and then once we got there, we did interviews for the quadcopter, which I had no idea how that was going to work out. You're trying to talk and record and Rowdy's driving. He's the pilot. He's flying the copter, and Kipp's standing there. Not Kipp. Ian's standing there. I'm there trying to make sure the recorder's in the right position, and we're recording the sounds of the taking off and stuff. And it was kind of fun. We edited that one down, and then we just did an interview with Ian. All these questions I want to ask him, which is fun. I get to see him very often, and it was a good idea. I want to do more of that because I like doing it out in the field, because to me it's more of a wild interview, and it's kind of what people would kind of expect to have. That's what I would expect to have. But sometimes you got to call people up like we're doing right now on the phone, doing a little podcast thing. It's, I'm sitting in my comfortable chair, in my backyard, because the reception in the house is very poor. And the sun's, not down yet, so it's good. But it's just not the same. Like the last one I think I did was with Dick Levin, where I didn't want to do it in his living room because it sounded like you're in a cave. So we did it outside in the backyard, and it started raining on us. So that was like in the field 101. I mean, it was raining on us. We were kind of tucked away, and I got a chance to interview and ask all sorts of cool questions. And, being a hydrologist for his career choice, he had so much to say. And it was cool interviewing him, and a lot of things that I didn't quite know about him, it came out during the interview. If I was sitting in a chair across from him inside the house, I just don't think it would have come out the way it does. So those my 2 bits for the in the field interviews. I guess the hardest thing was picking out the right song for that, because I wanted it different than the other songs. So Tate, you were pretty instrumental in at getting that one song from who was that? Jonathan.
That was a gentleman that we met in 2020. Him and a couple other guys came up, and we all hit it off pretty well. You guys camped at Scorpion Creek that year, and they ended up camping at the film site, and Jamie and I were at the berm. But his name was Jonathan Easley. I've had him on the show a couple times. He's been on a roundtable episode a couple times, I believe. So, but lo and behold, we started talking, and Roddy was like, "Oh, these guys, Tate wants to make a film about the Patterson Gimlin film," and this guy did too. So we were really talking about it, and we talked about music, and he's like, "Oh, I have a song if you guys want to use it." So we ended up using a song that he wrote, and I thought it was just like perfect and everything for like the in the field episodes. Because like what Robert said, I wanted to mix it up a little bit, and I thought it would be cool that way. And I thought it was cool because like normally when I do editing on YouTube, you see like the profile picture, then the picture of the guest we're interviewing. But Robert was like, well, let's take pictures of where we're at and use that as the picture on YouTube. Yeah. So like when you guys when you interviewed Bobo, it was at Twin Lakes, so it was a picture of Twin Lakes.
Bart too. Bart was there.
And Bart was there. And then when you interviewed Kipp and Dustin, it was at Kipp Camp. Yeah. So there's a picture of them and all their trucks. So I thought that was really cool and a little different idea for the beginning song and end song. So, and it was nice to get a break. It was nice to get a break for you interviewing for us. I was getting a break, man. It was nice.
Well, I love the song. One thing I need is just some coyote howling in the background, but he didn't want to change any of that on there. So we need
money makers howls on that to bless the song.
No, we don't. We're good.
Oh, brother, that's so funny. But yeah, I'm looking forward to us all getting up there and doing some more in the field stuff and a roundtable episode. It's going to be really exciting. I can't wait.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, you get this problem when you have so many people trying to talk at once. So the disadvantage of the rice little roundtable is you need like a little light to go on. You gotta wait for a green light before you can say anything. Somebody's always talking, and then you don't want to walk at everybody. But when you're sitting around a object in the middle, paying homage to this object, you can see who's talking and who's not talking, and then you can jump right in. So I think the round table, where everybody can see each other in a 360-degree position, that round, in case you look at me funny, it's round, the round part, the round table, where you can look around and see everybody, and then you won't be walking on people, not saying you are, but just saying it helps.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It happens more so, I think, with using Zoom and what have you, different things like to do digital recording like we're doing now.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make the drive all the way to California to do things in person.
Yes.
If I had the budget, if we were billionaires, I'd just pay for everybody to fly out. We had a professional studio, but we don't.
No, that's fine. I mean, for the Bluff Creek Project, we've been pretty good about what we've done. We've started out trying to find a film site. Then we moved on to putting up cameras. Then we got on to, I don't know, how about corresponding with people, taking people, showing them tours. And then we got into the podcasting, which was your idea. You come up with it. Actually, I remember rightly, you and I talked about it, but that's okay. But yeah, it was pretty much your baby to do what you did, which is good. And so I think we should just keep that up as long as we can, because I know it's very time consuming. And I know Kipp was a regular for quite a while. Kipp, how many, like 12 episodes or something?
I can't recall. Tate, do you remember how many that was? I didn't think that it was very many, but I got caught up with fire season and it got crazy. And
I think it was about half. I mean, I think the last one you did with me was Bobo.
Oh, really?
I feel like that was the last one.
Man, that's been a long time.
Okay, let me think. Well, I think this episode right now will be our 43rd or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've definitely come a long way since before we started, and like Robert said, I think him and I kind of talked about it, and then I think I floated the idea of doing a podcast to you guys a few years back, but never kind of just took it too serious. And then I think it's when COVID hit, I was like, man, I'm really bored. And so I kind of wanted to just do it. So, I definitely didn't know as much as I did back then, which is about a year or so ago. So I definitely learned a lot. And I think this has been cool for our project because, we're not always able to get to the film site year round. And it's cool to talk to people who've been there and whatnot. And then I think we're doing pretty successful on the podcast. We're doing something right. So.
Yeah. How many people watch this? Like 15? I'm just curious.
Probably. There's only couple or maybe like 1,060 people that follow the Instagram. But
yeah, we get like 12 hits per episode. That's us. So that's half of it right there. Just checking out. Yeah, did I look okay? Did I sound kind of stupid?
That's right.
Well, some of the episodes on YouTube have a few hundred views. It just depends on the guest, really.
Yeah, I keep clicking on them just to help you out. I don't know. I mean, hey, Kipp, aren't you just clicking on that just to help them out too? I mean, I don't want take feel bad.
I usually try and when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, I go in there and I try and click about an hour.
Yeah, that's good. That explains everything.
Right. You have a team of people who like click this link and watch it.
That's right. and just you don't have to stay on for very long. Just click the shit out of it.
Oh, that's so good. That was the idea all along.
Yeah, but we're just giving you a hard time there, Kipp. I mean, not Kipp. Tate. Sorry, you got much like on the screen. Right now I'm looking at the screen and Kipp is like this white blob on there because he took us pictures off because he's half naked, doesn't want to see it. And then when Kipp's not there, Tate pops up and he's either drinking something or I don't know. Can't see anybody right now. I can't tell what they're doing. I give you a blow by blow on that one, but
you know what? So speaking of giving me a hard time for the views, I'm very proud of the T-shirts I made. I'm actually sporting my Bluff Creek Project podcast T-shirt.
Yeah, it looks like Sasquatch has a backpack on. What is that?
So it's the outline of the Patterson Gimlin track with like the Patty Bigfoot right there.
Oh, there it is. Yeah,
So,
Bluff Podcast.
so this is supposed to be the 50th, or not? Well, not the 50th, obviously. This is the anniversary edition T-shirt for when Patterson Gimlin film rolls around October 20th.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will want to buy that shirt. But
Yeah.
only one person has bought a shirt, and that's Jonathan. So shout out to him.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of funds right now, so you're hitting up me, and Kipp's traveling everywhere. He doesn't have time to buy anything, or
I don't have any room for anything. I live in a fifth wheel trailer.
Yeah, and I'm remodeling again.
That's right. I'm always making the crack that yeah, because people that are into bigfooting, all they have is disposable income. They're just throwing money away at things, because they're, and I always try and remind people, Bigfoot people don't live in their basement of their parents' house. There's 5% of the people that are into bigfooting out there that don't do that. So don't lump everybody into the same thing that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? Kip, thank you for saying that, because I don't live in my parents' basement. I live on the second floor of my parents' house.
Look at that. He's like little
Upgrade.
Lord Fauntleroy or whatever it is.
I graduated from the basement to the second floor.
That's right. I can hear Tate now going, Mom, bring up some more sandwiches.
I'm actually remodeling our house for like a little elevator that my mom could put food in, and it like goes up to my floor.
That's right.
They call
Mom, this grilled cheese isn't even melted.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
I've installed intercoms in every room.
there you go.
That's
I
right.
remember growing up at our house, my mom put this intercom system on. I guess she wanted to call it, get down here right now, push the little button, intercom. Or, what are you guys doing? It's too quiet in there. Little things like that.
Oh God. If I had it my way, I would live in like a little van.
That's fine. Well, it is what it is. And that's just where you're at right now. And it's a tough time. So nobody's going to fault you for that. Now we're on the subject of making money, for lack of better stuff. Our Bluff Creek Project book, it's ready. We're almost ready to rock it. It's supposed to be out last year, but it's taken a little bit longer. And I think, Bobby, by May, hopefully, it should be out there. And it's just a recap. It's almost like the 10-year anniversary, because in 2010, I started participating in the project. Stephen and Ian we're working on it a little before then. But 2010 is an important day for me. So I thought it'd be nice to pull it all together, of all the video stuff that we did, the conversation, the process of it, kind of talk about the camera project and other things we've done as a group, but put something out there by 2020, covering the Bluff Creek Project and all the players and our participating, what we've done, with the focus on, I think, a 3-year time period, which was 2010 to 2012. And during those 3 years, we went from forming a group to looking for the film site, to finding the film site, to bringing some of the big mucks down and looking at it, and to starting our camera project. So over that 3-year period, I thought it'd be nice to document that process. And it's like a journal entry, because a lot of the things that took place was put in a journal. A lot of that journal was a video journal, because I had the bug of videotaping everything. You can ask Kipp about that, where we go around and videotape processes so we can extract information from it later. And it's also good for uploading to YouTube channels for information on that. There was a point when I had a bunch of videos that we're working on, and actually Kipp was a part of that too in 2012. That's when we did the Bard's thermal sighting. That was in July. So even during that time period from 2010 to 2012, Kipp was with us with that, and Kipp and I worked together on the BART thermal. We video documented that with a bunch of videos. But anyhow, so the book predominantly covers that 3-year period of our project trying to discovery. And we have maps and some charts in there and trying to get a bunch of photos. It was kind of a challenge to get copyright issues on photos because people want money for that use of photos, and they deserve it. But trying to figure out which photos you want to use where, and you don't want to use spend a lot of money on a whole bunch of different photos that you're not going to really use. So I tapped my resources. I tapped Kipp, I tapped Rowdy, I tapped Steven and Ian, asking for photos. So I thought pictures are great storytelling tools. So we have a lot of pictures in there, and Kipp's in there too. You know, he wasn't quite with the driving force at the time looking for the film site, but a lot of those photos we took after the fact when we started comparing stumps, they're over a period of time. So Kipp's in a few of those. So I guess he'll appreciate that being in the book.
Totally.
Right, Kipp?
Yeah.
And you kind of deserve it too. And well, one of the little trips we did is it was Rowdy, Kipp, and myself, and we pretty much relived the Pass of Gimlin to travel up the creek, starting over at the 12 and 13 bridge. We traveled up, took a lot of photos. I think Rowdy took a lot of good shots, and a lot of those are in there. And I wanted people to see what it was like to take a journey up the creek too. And the first time I took the journey up the creek, it was kind of cool. I used the video camera again to document what was going on, but it was quite an adventure. I ran into some outline tracks. I just missed the cat because, when you're walking around, you get the feeling you're being watched, and you start looking a little closer, and then you find there's a foot impression in the shoreline, kind of the moist sand, where it's slowly filling up with water. And you look at that, and it's a cat print. And that's kind of a little pucker factor you have there when you're hiking around, and you feel like you're being watched. And guess what? You are. And you just missed it because there's the foot impression. It's slowly filling up with water. So that was pretty cool. So things like that, I wanted to capture it. And one of the other stories I threw in there was the one when I was by myself waiting for Jonathan and those other two guys that came down last year.
Yeah.
Which film site. It was Jonathan. It was, I slipped my mind right now. But you kind of
remember his name too.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I forget, but you get old if you forget things. But I was walking back after making a call, and I got followed. And it was kind of interesting is you get followed from time to time, but this one was deliberate, where every time I would stop, it would stop in the beginning. And that was kind of suspicious. And it got to a point where it didn't stop anymore, and it kept moving. And then I kept moving. And then it got to a point where it decides to make a beeline down to where I was. And that's when I leave, It was kind of fun. So stories of wildlife encounters, I want to include a lot of those in the story, and photos, and tell them the story about finding the film site and give people credit who deserves credit. But that's going to be out here pretty quick. So it's a project that involves Steven, Jamie, Rowdy, and Ian, mostly of the players there. And they're the main people. So in a way, you could say that we all wrote the book because a lot of us have been recorded on the video camera, and that dialogue is part of that. So that was pretty cool. And the other project I was trying to get done here is, you probably don't know this, but 20 years ago, I wrote 3 Bigfoot books. It was a Bigfoot trilogy. And the first one was the Bluff Creek Project. I'm sorry, scratch that. It was the Bigfoot Mystery. And I wrote that. It got published in 2000. And it's been around for 20 years. Hard to believe that. And there's 3 of them. There's a trilogy. And people just don't, forgot about them and don't read them anymore. But I was thinking it'd be fun to update those books, rewrite them a little bit, make it flow better, get rid of the grammatical issues, and put them into an audio tape. So it'd be audiobooks. So you can learn about the Bigfoot trilogy in audiobook format. So I was trying to get that done by 2021, 2022. And I mentioned that to Kipp. And Kipp said, I'll be your narrator voice. And I said, Kipp, I would love you to be our narrator voice. Because, Kipp, I want you to do a little narration for me right now. Just to let people know. Go ahead. Kipp,
it was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
There you go.
Strange bedfellows. by Robert Leiterman.
Yes, Strange Bedfellows. Anyhow,
That were,
yeah.
I
Kipp's
really
got a
want to
great
use
voice.
Strange Bedfellows or something. Strange
So
Bedfellows is the best thing ever.
So Kipp's got a great voice. He also has a great singing voice. And you probably all know that already because he sings. But once you get Kipp singing around a campfire, you're not going to get him to shut up. Just for the record. But he's got a good voice, and I love it when he starts doing that. And we got to do some songs with Kipp. Just gonna be awesome. But I talked to Kipp about this project, and he said, "Yeah, I can do your narrated voice." So what I want to do is what makes this different than other projects is I want the characters to speak their lines, and I want the narrator to fill in the gap, and then I want the background sounds like a podcast in the field, where if you're sitting around a campfire talking about the Albert Ostman adventure, then you need to have the crackling fire, you need to have the crickets or the frogs narrating, and then the branches breaking while you're talking. That's the great story, and that's what I was looking for in an audiobook. So that's what I want to work with, the Bigfoot mystery. There's a Bigfoot mystery, then there's Yeti or Not, Here We Come, and then there's Operation Redwood Quest. And so that's the big project. It's gonna be fun. But the main one that should be out by next month is the Bluff Creek Project, and I think you guys will enjoy it. It's just an adventure of guys discovering things that people didn't think was possible, and some people had an idea where it was, but they didn't know exactly for sure because they didn't have the artifacts on the sandbar that were covered in vegetation to prove it. And our job was to pretty much prove it. And that we did.
I can't wait for the book. I'm in anticipation of it for a long time. So, plus I got my interview in there, so I'm excited to see that. That's gonna be cool.
That's right. You got your Bob Gimlin interview at the film site in front of the big tree at the film site. That's just, yeah. So what, 5 minutes and something basically, and you can also see that interview at the
North American Bigfoot Center.
That's right.
Yeah. It's funny because I was up there, we were all up at Bluff Creek a few weeks before, and then I saw in the group chat, oh, Bob Gimlin's coming to the film site. And so I was scrambling to make money, and Jamie actually paid for my gas to get back up there. And I paid for my gas to get back. So huge thanks to Jamie for that one. If I wasn't for him, I don't think I would have gotten that.
Well, that's a good project. We talked about this before. And in the book, I try to figure out, okay, how many times has Bob Gimlin been to the film site area? Well, a few times, not knowing exactly was the film site until proven later. But yeah, that was well into knowing exactly where it was, and you could take him right there. And see, that's a great interview. I mean, why interview him in a parking lot when you could take him to the film site? It's going to trigger memories, and he'll talk about things that he didn't think about before because he wasn't in the right setting. So that's the nice thing about taking in the field interviews. Not to keep taking it back, but you asked me earlier why I wanted to do in the field. I've been, 30 years of park rangering work where you do campfire, fireside talks, and give nature hikes and talk to people out in the woods. And it makes a big impression when you take somebody and stand them in front of a redwood tree and you have them touch the bark, smell it. You have them taste the oxalis around it. You have them breathe in deeply, close his eyes or their eyes, and have them listen to see what they hear. I mean, what a connection is that? All the type of learning ways where you can, you got the audibles, you have the, hearing, you can see it, and then you can move to kinetic. All those are important for learning skill sets. Same as for somebody trying to understand the environment. They got to use all those senses. You got to make that connection with them.
Yeah, when I saw Finding Bigfoot, when they took Gimlin there, I was like, well, when I first saw it, I was like, it doesn't even look anything like the film site because they're on that little creek area, not on the upper sandbar. I was like, yeah, that doesn't look anything like the film site. And they interviewed him right there. I'm like, okay, that's cool, but I don't want to do that. I've seen a ton of Bob Gimlin interviews because I've been obsessed with the Patterson Gimlin film since I was a kid. So I've seen as many interviews as I could with him that are public, and not one of them have ever been like in front of a landmark in the film. and that's the goal that I wanted to do. I was like, gotta do it. And according to Daniel Perez,
that is cool.
Yeah, according to Daniel Perez, there's no other interview like that with Gimlin. I don't know if you guys know anyone like that.
No. Yeah, I guess the ultimate classic one would be to start the Gimlin interview downstream about 100 feet, where that big root ball is. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm assuming, based on looking at all the evidence and looking at positions and landmarks, that's when the first encounter took place. And then Roger ran up the road. And then as Patty moved farther away from that one position, Roger crosses the road, jumps to the other side, and, starts his filming process. So that'd be fun to actually walk through with him and talk about those different positions, because I think that'd be great.
We got to get him up there again.
Get him up there again. Yeah, he's getting older now. It's hard to travel. I mean, you'd have to drive all the way down to Yakima, pick him up, check with the wife, make sure it's cool, check in with his agent, drive all the way back down, feed him, house him, entertain him, get him down there safely, then get him all the way back home again. You're looking at a week right there. And nobody wants to sit in a car for a 13-hour drive, one way and then 13 hours back. Yeah. So you're looking at a commitment.
Well, good thing we know a pilot that's here tonight with us. Talking about you, Kim.
Well, you cut in and out. I missed it. What did you say now?
It's a good thing we know a pilot that can fly Gimlin down from Yakima.
Yeah. In my airplane. Yes.
I just saw Kipp's getting a little harness for his drone. He could just fly back on his drone. Might take a while, but
that's so fun.
A lot of bugs.
I enjoyed that little shout out that Russell and Bob gave me. I thought that was pretty cool. And I don't know, being Hieronymus down there with Bob Gimlin, that was funny. First time.
Yeah, I still think of an interview. You talked about it before. It'd be fun to having Hieronymus interview Hieronymus.
I'm gonna try and go to Yakima to talk to Bob, but also Bob Hieronymus lives a few doors down from him. Yeah,
they're neighbors.
I want to try and go talk to him and get him on this podcast, because why not?
It doesn't hurt to ask.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Robert, I got a question to ask you. So Candy555 on Instagram, she wanted to ask if you have you ever had any encounters while camping at the film site?
Oh, well, let's describe an interesting encounters. Now, when you say the film site, I assume a whole area. I assume an area that starts at the 12 and 13 bridge, goes 2.5 to 3 miles down to the film site, or let's take in the road access roads down from the film site up towards 12 and 13, over near a big open wide area with gravel where you parked before. Like I mentioned last year, walking down from there, I you get the feeling you're being followed, and I always say you are. And I was walking down after making a phone call. I was at the berm camp, and I hiked the what is it? It's like two miles. Hiked the 2 miles all the way up to the top of the berm. Made my phone call, and I was walking back down when I felt like you were being followed, watched, and then you start hearing something following you, and then you try to be really cool, right? So you stop in the middle of a stride, just to see you can still hear it, confirm it, and you hear a couple more steps, and it gets quiet. And you're like, huh. You listen, hear nothing. Then you keep walking down again. Now you're really listening. And then you hear the footsteps again. This time they sound like they're a little bit closer, but paralleling you on the road, up above you. And you hear it again. So you take a couple quick steps, you stop, and you hear it take a couple steps and stop, and then it gets quiet again. And you hear nothing. And yet now all you hear is your heart rate pounding in your ears, and your respiration is increasing. and you're going, how far are we? How far am I away from my my camp? So now you're looking at, yeah, you got a good half mile to go. You're like, oh, this isn't good. So you start walking again, and you hear it again. This time it's even closer, paralleling, and this time you stop, and it just keeps walking. And then you said, screw that. Then you keep walking, and you're walking along, and you can't see it because it's upslope and all the vegetation, but you know it's there. You can hear it walking. And when you get down to that one section of the road where it makes like a 270-degree turn, you get to that point and you move around the corner and you stop. And that's when you pop out your bear spray, right? You, okay, I'm ready for this. And then you need to watch it walk past that position through the canyon where I can get to see it from above. And that's happened before, where you kind of set an ambush and wait, and the animal goes by, whether it's a bear or you know, whatever, deer, whatever you're pursuing. And it doesn't go that way. It makes the 90-degree turn. So it's heading right down the hill to the edge of the road where I was, you know, on the turn. So I hear it coming through. It's picking up a little bit because it's walking downhill. And I got my bear spray there. I'm going, wait a minute. Is this really going to work? You know? And it's coming down and you're like, screw this. So basically I just threw my pack back over my shoulder and kept walking back down towards camp. And of course the sounds fade away and it never follows you. You should stop and you listen. But the question I always ask this is, you know, to yourself is, could that have been just a bear walking down the hill? Because they do that a lot. Like when you guys were over, this was 2000 and, well, it was just last year. You guys were at camp by the berm and you had something above you, paralleling you, breaking branches, making noise.
Yeah,
well,
James, like, hey, there's like a bear that pushed a tree down or something, which I thought.
Well, that same general area. That same area, it's a farther up the slope where the road goes. That's the path the bears like to take. So that path that was taken could have been very well been a bear. But the part that unnerves you is when you stop and it stops, and you can't even see each other as far as you know. But one thing I've learned though, in your when you have the high ground and you're looking down, you could see better than the person at the low ground looking up. So it pretty well knew I was there, and it was paralleling, and it stopped twice. And then when it came directly down to the end, it knew the terrain. It knew that there was a canyon there, and it hang a 90 and went down slope. It knew it was going to hit the trail or the road. So it knew the terrain pretty well. And I just kept going back. And then another time I was down, we were hiking. Pardon?
Go ahead, Robert.
Did you ask whether I thought it was a bear or?
Well, I
don't know what it was.
In your opinion, does it sound like bear behavior and mountain lion behavior?
A mountain lion, you're probably not going to hear because they're ambush predators and they're being as quiet as they can. And they'll change positions high and low ground just to keep an eye on you. The bears, you're pretty much they got their point of contact and they're just moving along. And they're not very quiet sometimes. Sometimes they're very stealthy. This one was not stealthy. And I heard it. And it got stealthy by not moving. You know, that's because it saw I stopped, so it did. Or it heard I was walking the gravel road, you know, it makes a little sound. So it knew where I was. So I'm not going to say it was a Sasquatch because I didn't see it. I just know that the behavior is unusual, but bears will stop as they're following too. So I don't know. So the other one, I was hiking by myself down in the canyon, down from the film site, probably about a good mile away, downstream. And I'm walking along. It's getting late. And I'm just hiking. Everything's good. I'm walking. You know, when you hike, you hear the water, the white noise, and you're climbing over rocks that are wet. And you have your walking stick, trying not to, so you don't kill yourself. And I'm walking along, and right for this one section where it makes a sharp turn, there's a small feeder canyon that kind of goes up a little bit. And there's a deep pool area where the deer like to hang and stuff. So I'm walking along, and I hear what sounds like women talking and then giggling. And I've heard that before. So it's not the first time I've heard that, but I wasn't ready to be hearing it there. So I heard it, and then you could tell where it came from off to the left. So I walked up a little closer there because when you first hear it, you stop and you confirm you're hearing something. And I go, sure enough, women talking and giggling. Okay, that's pretty clear. So I walked over to see who was there. And just before I crossed, you have to cross the creek again. And I said, hey, how's it going? Walk in there, and there's nothing there, and it's quiet. And of course, you're saying, well, check for tracks, right? So it's an area that's softer sand. So I'm walking out looking at the pools where the Jeep tracks, and there's no footprints of human. There's deer prints. There's I saw might have been coyote prints, and there's a bunch of other bird prints, but I didn't even see any bear prints, and there was nothing there. And of course, you get there, and the sound is whites and noise, right? And you wouldn't want to hear anything up the canyon. So I go right back over to where I was when I originally heard it, and I stood there and I listened, and I heard the white noise of the river, and I did not hear giggling. I did not hear women talking. So I don't know what that was, but the closest road as the eagle flies, or if you take a tape measure and measure it up the side of the hill, is 12 and 13 is on the other side of the ridge. And there's a couple old overgrown logging roads up there, but you're still looking at a half mile away. Sound does travel quite a bit in the canyon areas, but that I don't know what it was, because I've heard that in other areas too, and I can't explain that. And we will, and let's see, anything off the top of the head there? Oh yeah. I was with Jamie, and we were kicking back over by the fire. It was I think, I'm trying to remember, it was late evening. It was before the sunset, because I used to take my flute out and I'll do some flute playing. First, I take my elk collar out and I'll do some calls, because it echoes off the canyon from the berm camp. It's just above the film site, so to speak. It's actually, It's farther upstream. But anyhow, so I do a couple elk calls to hear, elk bugles. Then I'll put that away, and then I'll play my flute. So I was playing my flute, and Jamie was there. He had his digital recorder going, and he's just down from where I was. He played his recorder, and he goes, "Robert, come here." So I stopped playing. I walked over to where he was. I go, "What's up?" He goes, I'm hearing something down there. I go, "You sure it's not, the river or whatever?" He goes, "I don't know. It sounds like something's moving down the hill," because the sound kind of goes up in the evening. So we're sitting here talking about this, and then we hear what sounds like a flute playing a few tunes coming back up the canyon. And I'm like, "Wow, that sounds like a flute, doesn't it?" He goes, "Yeah." Well, Jamie's got it on the recorder, but he was thinking, "Yeah, something's mimicking you're playing the flute." Well, it sounded like it could have been a flute, but who's to say that it wasn't birds down there playing? Yeah, birds playing flutes. Yeah, just sounding out for the evening. They get a little more active. Well, we didn't hear any of that beforehand or afterhand or since. I noticed there's a very thrushes that make certain kind of noises, and they kind of go. Can't even do it now. But it was different. It was almost like it was. Yeah, thank you, thank you, Kipp. That's Kipp. It kind of went up the octaves, back and down. So this was quite different. So that was unusual. And then, of course, there's the other proverbial story I'm not going to share with you, but that made me wonder about certain geographic areas, because at one time they were active, right? That's where the Patterson film was shot. Where we were at, basically, it was nothing but a hillside. There was no road at that time. So if there's animals out there still, we didn't catch anything on our cameras. Our game cameras have been up since 2012. We got one shot that looked like it looked like a Sasquatch bending over, but it's the Jacob shot all over again. It's a young bear, and we know it is because we have several photos of it before it gets in that position. So we haven't got any Sasquatches on our cameras, and we've had a few calls, in the distance. We heard some knocks in the distance, but again, when you have calls and the knocks, you don't know what you have. You have a calls and the knocks. You don't, and there's a road on the other side of the canyon. That's called Lonesome Ridge Road. And if somebody screams and yells, you probably could hear them from their car over there. So who knows what? Well, I hope those were helpful. Some of the questions.
Yeah, I think they were. I definitely think they were.
Yeah.
So we're past the time, but Kipp, do you have any things you want to say?
No, I think that it's Robert's always an interesting guest. He's always got a really good perspective. I think that I kind of like to ask this question, so I'll hit this one up. Robert, do you think we need to kill one in order to prove their existence?
Yeah, I'm going to say no on this. And the reason is that technology of today isn't like it used to be. It used to be whereas like Audubon, he's a conservationist. In order to identify a species, he would blast it, right? And then he'd paint it. And because, the Audubon Society is this conservative society, but it started by a hunter, Audubon, who would paint all these pretty pictures of these birds and animals that he shot so they would hold still. With the DNA is the big thing, right? In order to have DNA, you need tissue, hair sample. You can pry through a scat samples, come up with, the intestinal fluids around his scat. We can go with that. But there's something new now. It's like, I still think it's magic, but it's a worthy investment into some magic. Is we're all sloughing off DNA everywhere we go. We breathe out, there's DNA. Our skin cells, that's how dogs can track us and find us. We leave our skin cells all over the place, right? So if we have animals that go to a source of water and are washing DNA material from their persons into this creek, so to speak, and if somebody could come along with this special magical test kit, take a water sample, and then be able to break down the DNA of anything that touched that water, and that's in that water, be able to identify the species, that's great. I still think it's magic. I don't quite understand the art form of that because things get diluted quite a bit. Sharks can find blood in a minuscule amount of water. That's it's pretty sensitive. But if we can find out other means of doing that without having to take a sample, that would be great to try that. But again, now you're talking hit and miss. You're talking, let's find a creek somewhere that everybody uses and do some guesswork. You can't just walk in the woods, drop this aerosol can that collects all the odors and computerize it, sends the data back to you. Wouldn't that be sweet? But being able to go out and see something and take its life as a sample to prove that is a form of science, that is something that has been done in the past, and maybe that might be a way of in the past to do that in the future. But every time I look at an animal and watch the animal's behavior, I see a little bit of a little bit of myself in them, a little human there. Like we all have dogs and cats and pets, and we kind of read what they do, their body language, and the way of saying thank you, or the way of snuggling against you and everything. And I mean, you can't help but wonder if there's intelligence there, or if they care, or if they have a heart, or if they have sorrow, or they have love. And so we blast these suckers, right? So here's something that a primate in the woods that has family units, that has history, that has DNA, things passed on for generations. And they have history and they have all this stuff, just like we have, right? If we're going to assume animals, we're biologically, we're animals. And to think that we're the only thinking organism that's got their shit together. I mean, these animals that use instinct and pull off miracles, it's pretty impressive. Yeah, like I've seen things with dogs, being able to tell if there's something wrong with somebody. I mean, how do they do that? Is it genetic? They learn that? So maybe they got a little bit more of this stuff than we think, but just blasting away to prove science. But let's say we do that. We blast an animal, we get it. Great. Okay, well, maybe Smithsonian wants one. Blank. Okay, they get one. Maybe Stanford University wants one. They got a paleontologist. Boom, they get one. Maybe I'm just a rich collector and I like having animals. Boom, boom, I'll get a couple of those. So if you do open the market up for hunting of things and allow, sample taking, it's going to happen. And if you have a population that's not the greatest population as it is, you start taking samples, you start removing from that population some good genetic material. And so the day we do prove it exists or not, what does that change? Will that change access to where we get to go as humans? Does that bring up a whole new rules? Does that change forestry practicing? It's going to be a change. And not to bring up the UFO card, but, if people were told tomorrow that, yeah, UFOs exist, how many people would freak out? I think a lot would freak out. So if somebody who likes to go camping and they think they hear a monster in the woods, but it's okay, it's not a real, because monsters don't exist. And now if somebody comes along and says, oh, by the way, they do exist, all those fairy tale stories are real, that's going to affect how you look at the outdoors and how you, visit and how you look upon things. And that's just Robert's rambling, R&R. And Kipp, I hope that kind of helped a little bit with your question.
It did. Yeah, exactly. I just wanted your perspective.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different. I know people who want to blast them away, and they think that's the best way to find it. It is a way. It's not the way. It is a way, but we're smart people, right? We're in a intelligent society. Can we think of other means we can, check for DNA or prove something exists without having to blast it away? We get impatient lots of times. We think we want it yesterday, and we're looking at 50 years, 52 years, working on 53. Let's see. Okay, I've got to do the math. 67 to 77. Oh, it's a few years. And we think we would have it solved already, but we don't. And maybe we're all in for a rude awakening that there is no such thing and that we just think there is. And if you pray hard enough and you think hard enough, you will have one. But who knows? I know we have the woo-woo group. I know they don't like to be called that. And then you have the scientific group. And they don't always see eye to eye, but maybe in the future, maybe both sides can shake hands and apply both sciences. Well, some of those think one's a science. Apply both of them, and maybe we'll get closer to finding our answers.
I hope so.
The odds are good, but the goods are odd.
Yeah. Yep. So true. Oh, brother. Well, what an episode, guys. This is great. Robert, thank you for coming on again last minute.
Yeah.
Kipp, thanks for help cowboying this interview.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we co-hosted together on an episode, so it's good. Robert has been co-hosting with me a few episodes recently, so yeah,
a few.
Everybody here's a host.
I know when we talked earlier, it says, because you asked me about this yesterday, to be exact. Hey, yeah. Robert, how would you like to be interviewed tomorrow? What? Yeah, we just, we can rap about a few things. And I told Kipp today, not Kipp, I didn't tell Kipp, I told Tate. Hey, Tate, I can read you a chapter from the book I rewrote, if you're things are running a little slow. Yeah, but we didn't have to go there.
No. maybe next week I'll have you read a chapter.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you do this because being an audiobook, that's all it is. Of course, a guy like Kipp, who's got the great audio voice. Yes, Kipp Morrill is me.
Oh, please, come on now. I don't have a great audio voice.
He said it like that.
Yeah, he's the guy who needs to be sitting reading this like, Jack, thanks for taking us to see your friend Ken. Excitedly exclaimed Francis from the back seat of the moving vehicle. Okay, that's the first line of chapter 6. The quest begins. Yeah, so that's basically what the audiobook's all about. So I thought it'd be fun to do a little bit of that, just to get an idea. But in the future, I think it'd be kind of fun to be able to do that. Just be able to tell stories with background sounds.
I like it.
Watch out, Morgan Freeman. There's a new narrator in town.
That's right. His name is Kipp Morrill.
Kipp has done it all.
I don't know about that.
What? So I would have you on here. I did like a little Photoshop of a GQ magazine. I gotta hear your reaction to that. What did you think when you saw that?
Are you talking about your photo?
The photo I made of Kipp. It's like a GQ photo.
Oh yeah, I looked at it. Looked at that. I got that's cool. He got it because you guys were doing interviews with this lady that was supposed to. She asked you some questions. I never answered them, but you guys did. And she's doing this article for this Sasquatch Quarterly magazine or whatever it was. And you guys had did some responses back. So I said, oh, maybe Kipp actually did something and she put him on the cover. That's always a possibility, right?
And yeah.
Silence.
Well,
I was like, this is too perfect for it. I had it. GQ.
Yeah. Okay. I'm posing right now for you. Here's my pose right now. Go ahead and take this picture. Snap that baby.
Oh, hang on. Okay, I just did.
Robert, you look something like it. Hold on. Here, speak a little bit, Robert, and then just hold a pose.
All right, I'm holding a pose right now. My neck's getting tired.
I got it.
Okay, so you need to be photoshopped with like a Time magazine. It's in black and white.
What magazine?
I have a perfect idea for it.
Oh, see, this is how great minds are created right here, or destroyed. A reputation's destroyed.
Time magazine.
Yeah.
Robert Leiterman. Ranger Robert
So
Leiterman.
I thought that was good. It looked good with Kipp. I like it, but Kipp does a lot of those things to himself. You know, he's got a great sense of humor, but he puts a lot of stuff up. And I don't know if he does it or other people do it, but he's a good sport and he puts up with a lot of that. So just like being big for the year for like 12, 13 times, you know, things like that, you know.
Oh, God.
Yeah, well,
gentlemen, I've got
to have some nice things.
I've got to call it an evening. I've got to work tomorrow, and I've got to do a few things before I turn in for the evening, although it's early. But I have enjoyed my time with both of you, and I bid thee adieu and a good evening.
Yes, thanks.
All right, thank you again. It's good hearing from you.
Yeah, good seeing you, Robert.
Bye-bye.
You guys take it easy, guys.
Likewise.
Bye.
Later, Kipp.
See you later. Goodbye.
Yeah, Robert, thank you again, too, for coming on. It's been a good episode.
Sure.
We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, I know. It's always different when you're talking and then you sit by later and you listen to it going, I can't believe I said that.
Well, until next week, thanks for coming on, Robert.
Sure.
Definitely going to do this again, but we've been the Bluff Creek Project podcast, so keep us squatchy, y'all.